guys know what this load is, because I already told you. So pay attention. You guys are going 3,000 foot a second. I'm going to go one click left. Well, it
feels like you're getting punched in the face.
Got it again. I think I got it where it belongs. The time I flipped it up, it hit too. Hey guys, Lencac here. I'm going to do a little short video today on doing some reloading processes, techniques, whatever you want to call it. I was going to do some Berdan primed cases today, some GP-11 cases, and so I figured, what the hell, I'd give them a little recording time. But so yeah, we're up here in the gun room. Over here we got the recent case was K31 private series that you just saw at the range, and we have the CISM Steyr match rifle. This is a beautiful thing right here, guys. There's no doubt about that. But so yeah, so today I want to just kind of run down some stuff, and this may be considered a video for beginners, so to speak, because I'm going to just go over some of the equipment and things that a person, because I do get a lot of comments on my videos pertaining to people are just getting into reloading and they're just starting to learn how to reload. And so I figured it'd be maybe helpful to somebody if I were to go over just some basic stuff about reloading and equipment that you're going to need and some of that kind of thing. So without further ado, let's go and get started. All right, guys, so here I got my stuff pretty well set up, I think, or set out for you to see. And first off, I wanted to just express to people that might be getting new to this, to get started, really things that you're going to need are, obviously you're going to need a press. I like Rcbs stuff. That's what I've always used. The rock crusher over here. This guy over here that you see here, I can't even begin to imagine how many rounds that thing has through it. And I have another one here I got a few years back. Powder measure, of course, I have multiple setups. Over here you see I got the big press for doing the big cartridges. So don't kid yourself, guys. If you think getting into reloading is it's simple, but yet it's complicated, it's exacting. Like I say, it's a science and an art form all mixed into one. Pieces of equipment, you're going to need a complete loading press setup, which with a powder measure, that sort of thing. And I would say, generally speaking, to become a decent loader, to start reloading, you're going to need to drop $1,000. That would be my guess. Then another thing you're going to need is you're going to need scale. And I have two different digital scales. Beam scales work too. They're a little more tedious, but they work fine. And of course, a couple of power stations. And these ones are set up for different, this is for the big calibers, this is for normal calibers. But what it does is, after you trim the cases to length, and I'll show you what that is here in a minute, you trim the cases to length, and then you need to chamfer, take the burrs off the neck, out of the throat. And one of these things is for swaging the primer pocket, deburring the outside of the neck, the neck of the case, deburring the inside of the neck of the case. This is for cutting the primer, cleaning the primer pockets, and cutting them to all the same depth. And then a nylon brush for brushing the inside of the throat. A nylon brush, and I'll explain to you after a bit why I like doing that, okay? And then there's that, so there's that piece of equipment. So now you're here to some money. And then what I have over here is, this is my Rcbs power case trimmer. This trims the cases to length. And whenever you're shooting particularly surplus ammunition, because it's always crimped, these Swiss cartridges, these I've already trimmed to length, because they crimp them, and that crimp makes them too long. They won't meet the spec. So you have to cut them to length and then go through the processes I explained to you about deburring them. But once you do that, when you do that, it's a one-time thing. You do those things that you just need to do that one time. So that's good. But the first time through, getting a case prepped to my degree of liking, it takes a little stuff to do to begin with. And then I would say the very first thing you're going to need is one of the very first things is a way to clean the brass. And I can't, for years I used the walnut shell media tumblers and stuff, and they're a mess. I didn't like them, all the dust and all that stuff, but ultimately the way to go is a steel pin tumbler, media tumbler. And like the one, I have a video here. Here's a short clip of what I'm talking about on a previous video from cleaning the brass. But having a steel pin media tumbler is an essential tool, I believe. This is what I use to clean my brass. It is a Thumbler's tumbler, and I bet you this is probably originally like a lapidary tool, but they've made it so you can use it to clean your brass. And then today, what we're going to do is, I want to take and just show you how I go about depriming these Berdan these Berdan GP-11 fired cases. And something I will try to show you on here. You see, this is a hard thing to see right there. I'm going to see if you guys can get a picture of that. But you see, there's a little notch right there next to the T on the head stamp. That tells me that I have reloaded this. This has been fired once and reloaded once. Okay? So this will be its second firing after I reload it this time. But what I'll do is, to keep track of that, I'll get my little Dremel and I'll just nick it again on the head stamp there to keep track of how many times I have reloaded those things. Because, as you know from a number of my previous videos that you might want to go back and look at, is I have showed why GP-11 brass is great brass, but you don't want to shoot it more than 3 times. The cases will start to split right here where the shell meets the cup. I have some various theories about why I think that happens, but nevertheless, I think after 3 firings of these, they're no good. What we got here is, I have 2 sets of dies. This is a 7.5x5.5 Swiss Rcbs match die. This is the dies I would use if I was reloading for my Steyr, for my CISM Steyr match rifle. This has a little bit, the chamber dimension is slightly different than a K31. As you all know, if any of you are aficionados about this, you know even the K31 has a little different dimension than a K11. So they gave a little bit more forgiving dimension on the chamber size on a K31. But at any rate, so if I'm reloading for a K31, I'll use my Hornady 7.5x5.5 Swiss K31 specific dies. See, so that's a plus right there. You really got to have both sets. I guess if you're just shooting for a K31, you just need to get a set of the K31 dies. And then another thing that we're going to have to do here is, and of course you're going to need a caliper. You'll need a caliper, and here's some collets Hornady collets I get for checking both base to ogive of the bullet and base to datum on the shoulder. You see, because those are critical when you're reloading stuff to reload and resize your cases, depending on the usage. You're going to give them, because that can vary a little bit one way or the other depending on what kind of usage you're going to give them. All right, so this is how I go about decapping Berdan prime cases. First, just to let you know, these cases are cases that I've fired and that I have reloaded. I don't think there's any new once fired brass in here. I think the stuff I've all reloaded at least one time and shot. But the first thing I did is I took it just right out of the chamber. I took them all and I throw them in my steel pin media tumbler and clean them. And the reason I do that is for basically for the inside of the neck, and that's, as we go by, I'll explain to you why that is, okay? But to decap them now, this is what I do. In this case, this is my Rcbs competition die, and I have two stems with the expander balls on them, one with the pin and one without the pin. Of course, when you're resizing the Bourdain cases, you're going to want to put the stem in it that does not have a pin. These are for boxer primed 7.5 by 5.5 cases. These are for GP-11 cases, okay? But for right now, for what I'm going to do right now is I gut the die like this, just like that. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to screw it into my press from the bottom up, upside down. And I'm going to screw this in there as far as I can get it. And it doesn't really have to be very tight. And then I have a wooden dowel here that I use. And I just put that in there like that. See, and now I can take a case, put it in there upside down. See, and then I got my tool here. Now this is a very interesting little gadget. You got this tool steel pin here that has a kind of a angled cut on it so that it has kind of a sharp edge facing towards the front, but it's designed to latch around the rim of the case underneath of it, and then it just by leverage and sheer force it will take and dig that primer out. But now what I'm doing is I'm digging that pin into the primer pocket, the firing pin left, and I'm going to just break this over just a little bit and work this thing under the lip as much as I can as you break it over. And you see right there, it pulled that primer right out, and I can take and push it out just like that. And if you see, it did not touch. You got to be careful because you do not want to touch that anvil in there. That anvil in there is critical to making the whole thing work. So that is why this has to be set to a very exact depth. Not far enough, it won't pull the primer out. Too far and you will damage the anvil in there. But there you go. That's decapping a piece of Bourdain primed GP-11 brass right there. And so I got to go through my whole thing here and decap all of them. So I will see you when I get done doing that. All right, guys. I got all these. Got all the cases decapped, of course. And so now what I need to do is, let's just take one here. Let's see this one. I got this one because you can see it very well on it. I don't know if you can see that, but if you see right there, I've staked it once before. So that means that this case has been fired once from its original firing. I've reloaded it and fired it a second time. I'm going to take and I'm going to mark all these cases. Now I'm going to put one more little dimple on them. Some of these cases, like this one, I've already got 2 marks on it. This would be its 3rd firing. Or 4th firing, actually. 3 reloadings and 1 original firing. So I might try some of those, but typically I question if we go on 4 firings with these cases total. So that's what I'm going to do here. So let's take, and I'm going to put a little mark on it. Put my glasses on so I can see something here, and I got my Dremelizer here. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to touch it, right? And that puts another mark on it. See that? So now I know that this is how many times I've reloaded this thing, okay? All right. So it'll go up there. I'll keep all the ones that have been fired already. They're going on their 4th firing. I'll keep those separate. I don't know. I haven't decided what I want to do with them. I might shoot them once more, but we'll see. It's always been a question that way. All right, guys. Okay, so now I got all my cases. The head stamp, I got the head stamp marked on it again. Out of the batch that I had here, there's only 6 of them that have been fired have been fired 3 times. They have not been fired a 4th time. So I'm debating whether I want to load them. If you look at that, can you see that there a little bit? You can already see right there where it's going to start to want to give way. See, like on that one too. Now they're firing on this, and I have my theories about why I think they do that, but nevertheless. But next, now this is what I was saying. This is why I want to tumble the brass with the stainless steel pin media before I do anything to it. And the reason is I want the inside of this neck to be perfectly clean. I don't want any powder residue on it, so I want it to be clean. And now before I go and resize this thing, you see, because I'm convinced that the interface between the bullet and the inside of the case neck, that tension that is put on there and how much it varies has a great deal to do with ultimately how the bullet performs, if that makes sense to you. That's why the bench rest shooters spend so much time neck turning their brass so that the brass is uniform all the way around. If you were to take your micrometer and check it, which I may go and do right now, let's just do that, just out of curiosity. Let's go over here to our McToodle box, see if I can find put shit in here, dude. I don't know where everything is just yet. But anyways, I have this this Lehman mic here, and let's just check this guy here. Let's check our 0 first. Yep, we have a 0. All right, let's check this. Usually they're about 13, 14 thousandths. This looks like this is 13.8 maybe, 13.8 thousandths. Let's go around the other side of it. 13.4 maybe. See, so this one's pretty good. This one, there's 13, so we're almost just slightly over 13. So this one probably has 3/4. There's 13 there. So this has 3/4 of a thousandth difference in thickness of the neck around its circumference. There's one that's 14, almost 14, 13.9. Go to the other side here. It's under, see that's under 13 now. So this has more than 1,000th difference in the thickness of that neck going around the circumference of it. And so anyways, I think that there's something to be gained by trying to do your best to keep the neck tension on the bullet the same throughout the batch. That makes sense. So at any rate, this is what I'm going to do. Now that the inside of that neck has been cleaned by the stainless steel pin media, and I'm going to take the case and I'm going to run it up and down on the nylon brush. And what that's going to do is that's going to serve the purpose to further take and clean the inside of that neck, because I want all the bullets to press in there with the same amount of pressure. Okay? All right, I have all the case, the inside of the necks brushed, so they should be good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get these resized. I'll show you how I go about doing that. And I'm going to use, because I'm loading these, GP-11 brass I only use out of my K31s. So I'm going to use my K31 dies, obviously. Yeah, so we're going to take and resize these things. And we have a Hornady. This is a, Hornady K31 die. And this other one I have here, oh yeah, that's just a basic 30 caliber short. That's for just doing neck sizing if you want. But let's get this guy set up. And of course, setting up your die, guys, is the thing you want to do. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and I'm going to put my tool on it, my Hornady tool, for checking the base to datum, because I want to make these cases to a very particular dimension. I know which kind of rifle they're going in. If they were going into my CISM Steyr match rifle, it would be totally different setting on the die here. But what I got here is on one of these cases, whatever rifle this came out of, this will be what it's. See, so this is that's actually it's 2 inches here, so we're 899 and a half, right? See, that's. I'll show you a little something here when we start doing this. See this one also. So what I want to do is I want to size these things to be just a little bit less than that, okay? And then I got some case lube. This is wax. I don't like using oil. Oil's difficult to get off the cases, I think. But what we want to do is we want to get my die set up here. Right? And so my first thing is going to be to, I'm just going to show you. I'm going to use one of these cases. I'm going to use one of these cases here that's been fired already 3 times, because I may throw those out regardless, but just to demonstrate a fact about reloading. And okay, so this guy here, if you look, you see, now this guy obviously came out of, I'm thinking these ones that I checked over here, I'll bet you those came out of my Steyr, out of my match rifle. Or maybe, no, I take that back. It probably came out of my private series. No doubt about it, because the private series rifles were chambered a little bit tighter than the military issue rifles. Military issue rifle, the headspace on it will be 1803 to 807 or 8. And a private series usually is right at about 1800. Maybe a little less even. I've had a number that were a little bit less. But anyways, you see that there? So we're at 1800, 803. And so let's take, and I got this die is not completely seated. If you take and butt the die up against the shell holder, I think that's pretty much what people consider to be your 0 setting on it. And then you can tighten it up or loosen it up by how you change the die setting. And of course, you want to make sure that your pin, so let's pull that out, pull this off of there. Knock our pin out. You see that little guy right there? That's our pin. We're going to take that guy out. And we are going to screw the expander ball back on. Tighten it down. Okay. And now we should be able to resize this here. See, and I've got this die not completely seated down to the shell holder. So let's take and see what our dimension is now. You see how, do you see how when it actually moves that shoulder out? In this case, it moved it out quite a bit, about 4 thousandths. See that? So that means what we got to do now is we got to start working this. This die down a little bit more, turn it down a little bit, and redo it. See, once you get it set, you don't have to check. It's good for all of them, but you need to get it set right the first time. And you see, now it's starting to come down. That's basically where we were when we started, Okay, so I need to take and turn this thing down a little bit more. Need to turn her down just another tiny little bit. Okay. Okay, and let's take a look at it now. Oh yeah, you see that moved it right there. That's good, I like that, 95. That'll give me, oh, I might actually back it up a little bit, just move it out just a tiny little bit. I want it to be just a couple thousandths tighter. Okay, so, but this guy, for right now, this guy is good to go. Right, so let's try another one. Let's do another one of these 3-fired brasses here, and just recheck my settings on it. See, boom, there we go, right there. That's what I want, right there. That will fit in my K31s. That's perfect. I like that. That's going to be a good fit in my K31s. So that's, and so something I would probably want to do here is to just double check. We'll bring it over here, move the styre out of the way, open up the, oh yeah, I could feel it. You feel it there? I could feel it went in nice. See? Yep, that's good. That fits in the private series very nicely. All right, I'm going to take and show you how this thing works to trim the cases. These ones, these three times fired ones, I think I'm just going to throw them out. So there's a number of them that are too long, probably because they've been fired. But if you look, our spec is going to be 2" 170 is what the trim to length is. And this guy's about, he's about 12 thousandths over spec. Another one, this guy's way over. He's way over spec. You can see that. So let's take, and you see I've got this guy set up here. This is my, what happens is this has got a collet here that holds the shell in place. And I've already got it preset. You hear that? That tells me that that guy is done. Okay, so now let's check our spec on it, and boom, 2" 170. Now what needs to happen is I got to clean the burrs off of the inside and the outside of the neck right there. So let's do that. All right, you saw me cut this guy to length. Now what we got to do is we got to remove the burrs, and so this one is for removing the burrs. See, that takes the burr off of there. This one is for chamfering and removing any burrs on the inside of the neck, like that, right? And then I give it another brushing to finish it off and kind of burnish the whole inside of that neck. That thing is ready, would be ready right now to take a bullet. So, all right, so that's another process I go through.